what you were thinking by inviting me here to speak, but I'm very grateful nonetheless. And as you can see, I do not have a prepared speech. I know. That's what you're thinking now. This can take some time, and it can go in many, many different directions. But there's a fundamental reason I do not have a prepared speech. Because no one should come up to a podium when they're sitting next to a living legend who wrote speeches for the guy that I was going to quote, John F. Kennedy, in the name of Ted Sorensen. A big round of applause. One of America's greatest. So I was intimidated. So there is no prepared speech. So that leaves me wondering what I'm about to say. But here's the good news. I did a little research. I asked my staff, I said, tell me what inspiring things were said by your commencement speakers and your graduation. Not one member of my staff. Apparently, the ones that are responsible for that little city down the road even remember who spoke at their graduation. So the pressure's off me, because I'm the guy you're going to forget. And there is no chance you're going to remember anything that the guy you forgot ever said, so I'm just going to wing it. So here's what I was thinking when I was coming over the bridge, having just changed the diapers of my new 8-month-old baby that kept me up last night. I had to do the kid thing. It's an applause line. Here's what I was thinking. I was thinking, if someone did remember, and heck, I don't remember mine in Santa Clara. If someone did remember, what can I say? There's just one thing. Maybe there's just a little line, a throwaway, just something, a little insight that I can offer that maybe someone out here could go. And then I started thinking about what's on you, besides, what your parents are going to give you after the ceremony, and what you're going to do this weekend, and all those fun plans you have of summer. And that is the sort of notion and idea of this. And I've tried to be a student of success. And I've tried to sort of look at what the common denominators of successful people, what they have in common. And I've studied this as a small business person. Grew up in San Francisco, opened a little wine store, created about 1,000 jobs, about 16 small businesses, got into politics, studied politicians, not just business leaders. And I realized at the end of the day, there's not much successful people have in common, which is kind of distressing. Except one big thing, and that is failure. That the most successful people I know and have studied have screwed up more than other people. Not so bad. We all have that in common, right? We all know how to screw up. So I figured this success thing's not so tough after all. So I started reading and doing a little research, trying to find some wisdom. And I picked up a book about, I picked up a book, some guy named Churchill. Heard of him? Winston Churchill. You figured you might as well go to the top. And so I was reading this book, and it said, here's the secret of success, according to Winston Churchill. I got excited. I opened the book, turned the page, and this is what he said, true story. Winston Churchill said, the secret of all success is moving from failure to failure with enthusiasm. I thought, this success thing is easy. This is good. And I started looking back and started, reflecting, at least my contemporaries, guys like Michael Jordan. Exactly. A few of you remember him. It's all about LeBron, I know. Some singers that only the folks out here remember. A guy named Elvis. Exactly. As a new parent, Dr. Seuss. Henry Ford. Yeah. Thomas Edison. Thank God. You know who he is. And I was looking back and I was thinking, these are pretty successful people. Except here it is yet again. They all had, again, one thing in common. They were abject failures. Michael Jordan got cut from his high school basketball team. He wasn't good enough to play. Elvis Presley got an F in music. Dr. Seuss, guess how many times it took Dr. Seuss to get his first darn book? You know, whatever, Green Eggs and something. How many times it took to get that first book published? One time, it was rejected. 2 times, 5, 10, 15, 20, 23 times. And Dr. Seuss was good enough to have his book published. Henry Ford, if he were still alive today, he may have had an additional example, but he went bankrupt once. Henry Ford didn't go bankrupt twice, 3, 4. Henry Ford went bankrupt 5 times. 5 times.
Somebody's excited about it.
That's how easy this thing is.
It's understandable.
So your job, your role, and Edison was famous, right? They had the New York Times, famous New York Times reporter said, "What the heck is going on with you, Edison? Everyone's talking about you all over town. You're doing this thing, something called light bulb, something just, it's getting a little ridiculous, isn't it? You've been working on it for years, and by our last count, you have failed over 10,000 times to do this thing." To which Edison responded. He said, "I have not failed 10,000 times. I have found 10,000 times, or rather, I have found 10,000 ways not to do something." And he went on ultimately to make a few thousand more successful mistakes until he actually stumbled upon light. Not so bad. My point is, they all have something else in common, that they learn from their mistakes, but they have the courage to make them. Successful people have a bias for action. They don't talk about the way the world should be, they go out there and make it so. But if you're going to have a bias for action, and you want to make a difference, you want to have an impact, then you've got to be willing to make mistakes. And that takes some courage, takes some guts. But we all know how to do it. And so I want to encourage you, because I know you've been told all your life by all these fancy folks behind me, not to make mistakes. I want to encourage you to start making some big mistakes. I want to encourage you to take some action, take some risks. Don't repeat them. Learn from them and move forward. Because that's the only way anything in life's really going to change. Wayne Gretzky said this. He said you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. The answer is no unless you ask. Think about that. So then I was thinking a little bit more because there was traffic. That there was something else that all these successful people should have in common besides just screwing up more often than anybody else. And that is the difference between commitment, they understand this, difference between commitment and interest. It's a big distinction. Successful people have this in common as well. Interested people find excuses. Committed people find ways of getting things done. This is an important distinction in life. Now, how do you find the thing that you're totally committed to? Well, you know how. You gotta love what you do. You gotta be passionate. You can't like what you do. You gotta love it. And so your challenge now that you moved from being an undergraduate is to find your passion. That thing that drives your sense of purposefulness. The thing that enlivens your senses. That thing that wakes you up in the morning with intensity and purpose and passion. And that may not be what your parents told you you should be doing next. But I promise you this, you will never achieve the success and the happiness you look for in your life unless you love what you do. So please go back to that thing that you love. That's the opportunity, that's the moment of your life that you're uniquely positioned to find. So please find that. Difference is commitment versus interest. Find that thing that drives your passion. Be willing to take risks. Be willing to own up to your mistakes, but keep making them because mistakes are a portal of discovery.